What's going on, y'all? It's the kid J Nolan here. You already know I had to comment on this whole Big Sean Kanye West situation, so I ain't gonna waste none of y'all time. Let's get right into it. As y'all know, Big Sean went on Drink Champs the other day in response to Kanye West's interview. For those of y'all that saw the Kanye West interview, I'm sure you have because it did over 1 million views in one night. You know, he went on with Nori at Drink Champs and he had a lot to say about a lot of people that he has relationships with and has worked with over the years. But Big Sean probably caught the most heat out of everybody, you know what I mean? And, you know, he held up this tombstone and basically said, Big Sean was the worst decision that I've ever made, or signing Big Sean was the worst decision that I've ever made in my life. Put this on my tombstone. He didn't really give any solid foundational reasons as to why that was. The only thing he could really point to was the fact that he didn't feel supported when he was trying to run for president. That doesn't seem like a valid reason to be the complete worst decision you've ever made in your life, though. So when this clip came out, Big Sean went on Twitter. He said he was laughing at dude, but then he also immediately tweeted that he's talking to the Drink Champs team and they're setting up his interview. So for the last couple months, we've actually been waiting to see when this response would drop, if there was really a response to come, because nobody heard anything else about it. But it's finally here. For the proper context in the Big Sean Kanye West relationship to really be given, I want to give an outline of what's publicly known about them as it relates to each other, okay? So first thing, as a senior in high school, Big Sean was presented with the opportunity to rap for Kanye West. It's the classic story. He went down to the radio station because Kanye was in town, and you know, he had already been doing freestyles at the radio station, so they knew him and they were offering him an opportunity like, yo, we can get you in, blah, blah, blah. So they made it happen. He was able to rap what he claims was 100 bars for Kanye. Kanye was so impressed with him that he said, hey man, you fire, I'ma sign you. He gave him a verbal agreement to say, I'm going to sign you. I'm gonna come back for you. At this time, Big Sean was maybe 17, 18 years old, and he didn't actually sign the paperwork to be with Good Music for 2 years. All right. Now, within that 2-year period, Big Sean has gone on record and in previous situations to say that that was a dark time for him because he had an academic scholarship. He had other things that he wanted to pursue in addition to music. But once he got that verbal agreement from Kanye, it was like solidifying that this is what I need to be doing. I need to go all in with music. So he decided to forego his actual educational academic career. You know what I mean? But during that 2-year period, he was also not able to work. And the reason why he was not able to work was because everybody in his side of Detroit knew that he was in talks with Kanye. People were basically, before he actually had the deal, people felt like he already had the deal. So he felt like, man, if I go get a job at a shoe store, or I go work at the mall, or I go do this or that, people are gonna see me working there and they're gonna think less of me because they're gonna be like, yo, dog, what happened with the deal? So at the very least, if I can keep myself to a level of certain exclusivity, people will still buy into the fact that I'm with Kanye, and any money that I do get, I'm probably gonna buy a new outfit or, you know, get some, you know what I mean? Try to uphold the image of a rapper. And of course, during that time period, he was also doing the parties with his finally famous crew, and he was performing and doing stuff like that. So he was kind of being able to be an artist, you know, somewhat part-time, but he was also recording music that he was never putting out. And in the meantime, he did eventually start getting some beats here and there from Kanye's camp. But again, the music was not coming out for 2 years. So he put his life on hold for this man, not knowing when or if he was really going to come back for him. But even when the original Finally Famous mixtape came out, I remember it being on MySpace and this dude, Big Sean, popped up and it was like, who is Big Sean? Or my name is Big Sean. It was something to that effect. And the mixtape was out and it had the Good Music logo on it, but there was no official cosign from Kanye. You didn't know Kanye was even really a part of this thing until you actually listened to the mixtape, because I think he left a voicemail on there or something like that. So it wasn't like an immediate cosign. It was like, all right, we're going to throw this out there. We're going to give you our branding or whatever the case may be. But let's just see how you do on your own. Now, early on in the relationship, Kanye did invite Big Sean out to Hawaii for a recording session. Now, this is a big part of the Drink Champs episode, or at least a topic of conversation. When Sean was invited out, he took his homeboy with him because he was like, yo, I need a support system with me, somebody that can, if needed, can go get food or do whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? If something needs to be done that I can't personally do, my guy got it covered. Well, his homeboy ended up snapping a sneak picture of Sean, Beyonce, and Jay-Z in the studio working together, all right? And he ended up leaking that photo out in a tweet. So once it caught wind within the camp that this photo was out there, they actually thought Big Sean did it on purpose. And he didn't know, you know what I'm saying? So Kanye basically sat him down next time he came into the studio and was like, you gotta fire this dude, man. Like, we've all had to do it. We've all gone through it. We brought people along. They wasn't equipped for the job. We had to let them go. So now it's your turn. And Big Sean had to literally send this guy back home, cut his experience short because he was essentially threatening the mystique of Beyonce, Jay-Z, and Kanye. You know what I mean? And certain hip hop blogs were basically saying, okay, they're here, but who the hell is Big Sean? You know what I mean? And apparently Kanye wasn't ready to put him out there to the public just yet in that way. And it seemed like this was basically the beginning of a somewhat tumultuous or awkward relationship that Big Sean has had with Kanye over the years. Not to say that they don't love each other or have had good times together, but it seems that Sean was consistently put in awkward situations. Now, when Nori asked Sean about, because basically Nori had a bunch of questions about Big Sean's album. So he would like name the album and Big Sean would basically give off the top of his head what came to mind about each project. When asked about the Detroit mixtape and the Hall of Fame album, Big Sean explained that that time period was yet another time of depression in his life. The first time was during that downtime, those 2 years where he was waiting to actually be groomed and brought up by Kanye. But now in the industry, he already had a successful album out. He's got a mixtape on the way and a new album on the way, and he's in a depressive state again. He felt like he was being completely rushed to create this Hall of Fame album and turn it in by a certain deadline. So he said that the album was rushed. Not to mention the fact that he had the Detroit mixtape that came out shortly before, but he said he originally intended for that to be an album, but he was declined the ability to make it an album. So it ended up being a free release that did not count toward his contractual obligation with the label. And during Sean's tenure with the label, of course, other projects have come out, mixtapes, and those did not count toward his contractual obligation either. The project with Metro Boomin also did not count, you know what I mean? Even though it was put on streaming platforms as if it were an album. Now, when Nori asked Sean about Dark Sky Paradise, Sean seemed to have mostly fond memories, but then he began to reminisce on the creation of the song Blessings, you know, Blessings featuring Drake. Now, him and Drake came up with that song together. Drake gave him the hook idea, and they were basically going back and forth on how to put it together. They completed the song, and once Sean actually turned the album in for mastering so it could go through to pre-saves, Kanye listened to the album. Sean played it for him, and he was like, I gotta get on that song. Big Sean was like, yo, you're already on 2 songs on the album, bro. You sure you want to do a third? Plus, we're sending in the album for mastering tomorrow. Pre-orders are gonna go up like the next day. Kanye like, nah, dog, I'm getting on this song. Let's do it now. Let's do it today. So Sean helps him write the verse. Sean calls Drake up like, hey man, you know that song we got, Blessings or whatever? Ye say he need to be on the record, man. Drake is like, he don't need to be on the song. We already completed it. It's 3 verses. It's already long. Like, what else does it need? And Sean like, well, Kanye feel like it needs him on it. So I'm helping him write the verse. I'm just letting you know it's a courtesy, wah, wah, wah. Boom. It is what it is. He helps Kanye write the verse. They lay it down. However, somebody or everybody drops the ball because as Sean's album is going into mastering, nobody sent the new Kanye verse on Blessings to the mastering. You know what I mean? To the mastering engineer. The album pre-order goes up. Kanye's not on it. Kanye's heated. You know what I mean? But he tried to address him like, hey man, this is how it happened, blah, blah, blah. We're going to get it right for the video. Kanye says, all right, bet. They go and do the video shoot, and Kanye ends up screaming on him. You know what I'm saying? Which, if y'all seen how Kanye screamed on Chance the Rapper, you know what I mean? It seems like that's something that he does to people in his circle when he don't feel like they understanding or respecting him in the way that they need to. You know what I mean? It's not a good practice when you yell at your people. Like, it's only a sign of worse things to come. Now, some people, of course, you're gonna get into disagreements. Maybe I might argue or bicker here and there, but just all out screaming at somebody, man, it's a bit ridiculous, especially when the person doesn't feel like they're in a position where they can get back with you. You know what I mean? If I feel like I'm below you or beneath you in some type of way, I may not be so inclined to voice my full opinion. I'm gonna just let you have it because you don't want to jeopardize your situation. And Big Sean personally feels like this whole situation with the Drake song was basically the beginning of the ending, you know what I'm saying? Because as you know, Kanye and Drake have had a long-standing issue back and forth between friendship and being enemies. And in this case, Kanye, I guess, felt slighted, like, oh, you put the song out with Dude anyway, but y'all ain't want to put my verse on it, so now you're showcasing that your loyalty lies with him. Whereas Big Sean is like, dog, we already had made the song. You came in at the last minute. I helped you write your verse, so it can't be that I have a problem with you. But your whole team didn't send it into mastering, so that's not my fault. I made the call to try to see if it was in there. It wasn't, and it had to go out. Deal with it. But Big Sean began to notice after that event happened that anytime he felt like he wanted the support of Kanye or the push from him as, you know, big brother to put his arm around him and support him and give him that extra push, it seemed like Kanye always would bring up the incident with Blessings. And he would basically use that situation as a crutch or a reason as to why he wouldn't make the extra effort to help Sean in his career. And it became a thing to where even people in the studio in different scenarios, you know what I mean, were starting to bring it up to Sean. And he's like, how do y'all actually know about this? Like, it was a kind of an A and B conversation, but now it done got to so many other people because clearly Kanye's been voicing his displeasure with this situation to numerous people. And to Big Sean, it was like, yo, I thought that was water under the bridge. Now, according to the interview, Big Sean found it interesting that his loyalty was actually in question because he feels like he's the only artist that actually completed his contract with the label. Everybody else on Good Music is gone, pretty much. He had a 5-album deal, and he delivered 5 albums plus numerous mixtapes. And everybody else that was signed to the label, like I said, is gone. You can go down the list. Kid Cudi, Consequence, John Legend, Common, 2 Chainz, Tiana Taylor, even Sci-Hi the Prince and Designer have all disappeared from the team. Now, Designer got dropped, but he got dropped because he was already talking down on the fact that he didn't have no support from the label. He also says that in totality, his music has sold over 50 million records. So he's also the most successful Good Music artist outside of Kanye, and he brought the most money to the label, yet he's still being called Kanye's worst decision ever. So when he decided to address this whole accusation around the presidential campaign, Big Sean says that he was actually the first person to ever tweet Kanye for president. He also said that during the election period, he refused to endorse any other candidate out of respect for the fact that Kanye was also running. Even though he wasn't on the ballot in over 30 states, he still showed his support by not supporting somebody else. And to me, that was basically his way of saying, dog, there's no way in hell you were gonna win, but despite the fact that everybody knew you couldn't, I still didn't throw you under the bus. I didn't tell you to your face, yo, there's no way you're gonna win. You know what I'm saying? There's different ways that I could have shown you I didn't support you, but instead I fell back and let you do what you was gonna do, and it played out how it played out. You did not win. Now take that and keep it moving. There are people out there that have shown that Big Sean performed at Hillary Clinton rally in 2016, but it does not correlate, okay? Kanye ran in 2020. Hillary ran in 2016. That is a 4-year gap. So you can't say, oh, because you performed at Hillary Clinton's rally in 2016, you're not supporting me. Those dates are very far removed, and that's basically just like moving the goalposts. So anybody that's talking about that, your whole theory is debunked. And despite their relationship being fractured and maybe not being on the best of terms, Big Sean has remained silent about all of the issues that they've had over the years out of respect for Kanye. But, of course, when you go on Drink Champs, you get drunk and all of a sudden you start dissing everybody that you've had a prior relationship with in the industry, and then you throw this man under the bus and say he's the worst decision you've ever made, he's unloyal, he's all of these things. At some point, you gotta defend yourself, right? So Big Sean had no intentions of saying, hey, not only is he talking garbage with no truth or merit to it, but this man also owes me over $6 million. Now, this is the big thing here. Sean has officially been off good music for over a year. He didn't announce it until right before this new project with Hit Boy came out, but he fulfilled his contract when he put out Detroit 2. Detroit 2 was executive produced by Kanye West and Hit Boy. Now, but if y'all remember, Kanye and Hit Boy also don't have the best relationship. Hit Boy has been very vocal about the fact that, one, Kanye owes him money. Kanye deliberately tried to blackball him after he produced a song for Beyonce, and Kanye didn't know anything about it. So he basically tried to use that as distrust, and then he basically put the call in to his industry friends and was like, do not work with this kid. Now you start to see, okay, Big Sean is rolling with Hit Boy. So kind of shows you where his feelings are, like, hey man, dude, I'm gonna leave him where he at. He's not my enemy, but I'm gonna leave him where he's at, and I'm gonna roll with the people that I really have a foundation with. But I'm sure Kanye felt some type of way, like, how you gonna put me and him as executive producers on the album? I'm the one that found you. I'm the one that gave you money. I'm the one that changed your life, and that dude don't like me. So what y'all got going on? Not to mention the fact that this whole $6 million in the hole was discovered by Roc Nation. All right. So in the interview, Sean says that Roc Nation manager Jay Brown is the one who was like, hey man, have you ever audited your label to see if there was any money missing? He was like, yo, this is a standard practice in the industry. People audit their label every couple years. So if you've been signed for 10 years and you've never looked at it, there's got to be some money that's missing. Well, Big Sean said he put up hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to audit the books, and what he thought was going to be owed to him from UMG, Universal Music Group, Vivendi, Def Jam, he actually discovered that all that money has been paid to Good Music, yet it never was dispersed out to him. He also says that that balance was higher, but it's starting to be paid off. He also says that Kanye has not returned his masters to him, which they've had a discussion about. And once again, he has a verbal agreement that he says he intends to do so, but it still has not yet been delivered. And when we look at this from an industry perspective, you got to understand that Roc Nation has out here been the Avengers for the last few years. When Uzi Vert needed to get out of his situation with Generation Now, they came to the rescue and got him out of the contract, or at least the management side of it, right? Then when you look at Megan Thee Stallion, she's been going through a very public issue with her label 1501. She was signed to a very entry-level bad contract, and she became a star on that contract. Roc Nation stepped in to manage her. They're looking at the paperwork, and they're like, this is terrible. You need to get out of that deal. So they've been fighting, and they won't let her out of that deal, and they're still going through a very public court dispute to try to get her out of that situation. She does have to fulfill her contract, but even as she's fulfilling her contract, 1501 has kind of made it hard on different phases of her career to let her move. So when she's been trying to put out songs with K-pop artists or different collaborations and things of that nature, or even when she wanted to release her own project, 1501 was stepping in like, no, you can't do that. But then they had to do a court motion to where the judge had to say, yo, you gotta let her do it. Then most recently, you got Meek Mill, right? Meek Mill called out his label. He didn't say which label, but he's signed to Maybach Music and Atlantic. So clearly he's talking about both of them. And he says that he hasn't been paid $1 off of sales, record sales, since he's been in the industry. So all of the money that Meek Mill has accumulated over the years has been from shows, walkthroughs, engagements, endorsements, and nothing off of record sales. according to him, right? Rock Nation is out here saving lives, man. You gotta understand. And some people may not like it. Some people may feel like it's bad business. Some people may feel like it's shady. But if people are put in terrible contracts when they first get into the industry, somebody has to step in and get those people out of that so that they can get into better situations. It's not Rock Nation's fault that people took advantage of these artists when they were coming in young. You look at a 18, 19, 20, anywhere between 18 and 23 years old, how many of those people actually have access to a reliable entertainment attorney? How many have the disposable income to pay thousands of dollars for someone to read a contract and tell them if it's good or not? Just realistically speaking. So I feel like the issue that Kanye has with Big Sean is basically threefold. You know what I'm saying? He feels like he was disloyal in the campaign, he was disloyal in the situation with Drake, and he probably has, at this point, understood that Big Sean and Rock Nation are sniffing around the paperwork trying to understand where this money is going and why it's not making its way to him. So he's looking at it like, oh, you done teamed up with Jay and them. Now you looking into the paperwork, you don't trust me. I bet. So now I'm gonna go out here and publicly humiliate you just to show you that I got power over your situation. You know what I mean? And honestly, I feel like Kanye's a big hypocrite, man. He's somebody who has not been able to be tamed or controlled over the course of his career. And that's pretty much one of the reasons why people love him. You know what I'm saying? It's why people respect him and give him the adoration that they do. However, when somebody like Big Sean goes out and evolves and becomes the man that he wants to be, and he sees his own course of how he wants to live his life, you want to restrict him and keep him up under you. You want him to forever be indebted and loyal to you, but you've not expressed that same type of gratitude for anyone else except Jay-Z. And y'all have had a very public issue as well. So it's not like you and Jay-Z have a squeaky clean record either. So you gotta let Big Sean grow up and be his own person and pay that man what you owe him. Overall, I feel like it's just a terrible, unfortunate situation in totality, right? But I do hope that this serves as an example or a wake-up call to young artists that aspire to be in the music industry. Learn the business, man. Learn what your masters are and why they're important. If you're blessed enough to make hit records, the value of your music will only increase over time, right? And whoever owns that music is gonna be the beneficiary of those profits, right? So if you have a hit record out today and it continues to get played, maybe it gets placed in movies, maybe, you know what I mean, all of these types of things, the person who has the master is the one that makes the decisions. They get to say yes or no, clear that. No, don't clear it. If somebody wants to sample your music, think about all the hip hop songs today that are sampling records from 6 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago now. Somebody has to sign off on those records and somebody has to get paid off of those clearances. The rights holders normally do, which is the people who own the masters and the people who own the publishing. Now, I don't know what Big Sean's publishing situation is, but he's trying to fight to get his masters so that he can be in a position of power with his catalog. Your catalog is your retirement plan as a musician, or at least part of it, right? And Jay Brown from Rock Nation said that Big Sean is in the worst contract that he's ever seen. Jay Brown has been in the industry for a very long time. He's managed not only Big Sean, but early on, he managed J. Cole. He managed a lot of people over the years. So Jay Brown is very knowledgeable, and if he says that that's the worst record he's ever seen, I'm inclined to believe him. Keep in mind that Big Sean has sold over 50 million records in totality. So if he's having a financial situation, maybe he's a millionaire, but let's just say, even if he is, 6 million goes a long way because he's not in the same position as Kanye. Kanye may be a billionaire, but he was not anywhere close to a billionaire off of music and record sales. Remember, he said he was in debt. He had to amend his contract how many times? Like 8 times when his issues with Def Jam Universal Vivendi came out. That $6 million would go a long way for Sean. You know what I mean? Especially he's in his early 30s. He's got life planning that he wants to do. He's trying to open up a movie theater. He's got a foundation in Detroit. All of these sorts of things cost money. So as he's trying to get his future together, that would be a big help. And I say to artists again, pay attention. Don't let this stuff pass you by. You have free examples in front of you of all these different artists that are disgruntled and feel like they've been wronged. And sometimes we may look at it from the gaze of, well, maybe this, that, and the third. People like to side with the labels, but at the end of the day, even if you do, The real problem is that artists lack information. So if you're an artist out there or you're a music creator and you need some information, visit realjnolan.com. I actually have a book series called The Pen Game Portfolio, Volume 1 and 2, that will teach you the basics of the music industry. It will teach you about your masters. It'll teach you about publishing. It'll teach you about publishing administration. It'll teach you about where you can collect all of your royalties from, and how to launch your own songwriting business, and how to obtain funding for your music without signing away your rights. All right, so go on realjnolan.com and check that out. If you need hands-on consulting, you can hit me up on realjnolan.com as well. All right, learn the business. Much love and respect, y'all. Peace.